federal judge on Monday struck down Donald Trump's executive order blocking wind energy projects, saying the effort to halt all leasing of wind farms on federal lands and waters was arbitrary and capricious and violated US law. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking. Personally, I'm pretty fed up with Trump. Good to see him lose. Judge Patty Saris of the US District Court for the District of Massachusetts vacated Trump's 20th of January executive order blocking wind energy projects and declared it unlawful. As you can imagine, Trump was furious. He's still babbling on about it now, I'm going to guess, probably. Anyway, Saris ruled in favor of a coalition of state attorney generals from 17 states and Washington, D.C. So this is a lot of the US fighting what Trump has done, led by Letitia James, New York's Attorney General. And that challenged Trump's day one order that paused leasing and permitting for wind energy projects. You probably remember that there was a big offshore wind farm in New York, and it was halfway through, or in fact more than that. I think it was 80% from being completed, and Trump was like, no, I don't like that. Shut that thing down. It was just ridiculous. Trump has been hostile to renewable energy, particularly offshore wind, and prioritizes fossil fuels to produce electricity. Andrea Joy Campbell, the Massachusetts Attorney General, hailed the ruling as a victory for green jobs and for renewable energy, and I think she should have said for common sense as well. Massachusetts has invested hundreds of millions of dollars into offshore wind, and today we successfully protected those important investments from the Trump administration's unlawful order. James said she was grateful the court stepped in to block the administration's reckless and unlawful crusade against clean energy. And I completely agree. As New Yorkers facing rising energy costs, we need more energy sources, not fewer, she said. Wind energy is good for our environment, our economy, and our communities. Now, I'm sure you've heard Donald Trump's ranting and raving about wind farms. He says that wind turbines kill everyone and everything. They kill whales, apparently, according to Trump. He says some ridiculous things about them. He really doesn't know what he's talking about. He just sort of blabs this stuff out because he thinks, and quite rightly, that the general public, not all of them, but most of them, will hear what he says and say, well, you're the president. What you're saying must be true. And so he brainwashes a lot of millions of people this way. A White House spokesperson, Taylor Rogers, said on Monday night that offshore wind projects were given unfair, preferential treatment during the Biden administration while the rest of the energy industry was hindered by burdensome regulations. Now, intriguing, it almost sounds like they're backing up solar here when they hate solar. President Trump has ended Joe Biden's war on American energy, a war on American energy, strong words, and unleashed America's energy dominance to protect our economic and national security, said Rogers in a statement to the Associated Press. So Joe Biden had a war on energy, apparently, according to the US administration. I think even if you're a fan of Trump, you can't possibly believe that that was the case. The coalition that opposed Trump's order argued that Trump does not have the authority to halt project permitting, and he doesn't, and that doing so jeopardizes the state's economies, energy mix, public health, and their climate goals, and wastes their money as well. It's ridiculous. The coalition, it includes Arizona, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Illinois, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, and Rhode Island. I'm going to guess Texas would have joined up if they thought they politically could. Washington State and Washington, D.C. were also part of the coalition. They say they have invested hundreds of millions of dollars collectively to develop wind energy and even more on upgrading transmission lines to bring wind energy to the electrical grid. The government, though, argued that the state's claims amount to nothing more than a policy disagreement over preferences for wind versus fossil fuel energy development that is outside the federal court's jurisdiction. The Justice Department lawyer Michael Robertson said in court that the wind order paused permitting but did not stop it, while Doug Burgum, the US Interior Secretary, reviews the environmental impact of wind projects. So in other words, The US government are just saying anything they can to weasel their way out of this. The executive order said there were alleged legal deficiencies underlying the federal government's leasing and permitting of wind projects under the Biden administration. A previous judge in the case allowed it to proceed against Burgum, but dismissed an action against Trump and other cabinet secretaries. No surprise there. Judge William Young allowed the states to proceed with claims that blocking permits for wind energy projects violates the Administrative Procedure Act, which outlines a detailed process for enacting regulations, but not the Constitution. Wind is the United States' largest source of renewable energy, providing around 10% of the electricity generated in the nation, according to the American Clean Power Association. And ironically, one of the most red states in America, which is Texas, has more wind energy than any other state in America by an order of magnitude. I mean, miles ahead of them. Marguerite Wells, executive director of the Alliance for Clean Energy New York, said wind energy is a key component of powering the nation's electric grid. Wind is currently one of the most cost-effective ways to generate power and is being used successfully not only in the United States, but across the world, she said. With this ruling behind us, projects can now be judged on their actual merits. We thank the attorneys general who helped us get this case over the finish line. Kit Kennedy of the National Resources Defense Council called the decision a win for consumers, union workers, US businesses, clean air, and the climate. In other words, a win for everyone except Trump and his cronies. From the beginning of its time in office, the Trump administration put a halt to the wind energy projects that are needed to keep utility bills in check and the grid reliable, said Kennedy. The wind order has been a devastating blow to workers, electricity customers, and the reliability of the power grid, she said, adding that the Trump administration should use this ruling as a wake-up call, stop its illegal actions, and get out of the way of the expansion of renewable energy. Unfortunately, this year, because of the Trump administration, $27 billion worth of renewable energy projects have been cancelled.